going to tell you a story. Did that question make you cringe? When I hear I'm going to tell you a story, I think, oh no, here it goes. I hear those words and I think I have to pretend that I'm interested and that you droning on is the most fascinating thing I've heard in, well, forever. Is this how you think about storytelling? Or worse, is this what other people think when you say you're going to tell a story? Storytelling skills matter. They matter a lot when you're a leader. Stories are how the people around you learn about their work, about their environment and their place in it, and about other people. It's a really important skill, and I'm here to help you nail it. I'm Suzanne Elnagar, founder and CEO of Vantage Shift, an executive coach. I empower leaders to transform from reactive to strategic, to lead with clarity and confidence, and to amplify their impact. In this video, I'm going to share why and when storytelling skills are important, how to use this skill to your advantage, and common mistakes with tips to avoid them. So, first, let's take a look at why storytelling skills are important for leaders. Stories pique people's interest. If you're doing storytelling right, it's not a dry set of instructions or steps, but it's an intriguing whole. Stories help people remember the wisdom that you're imparting. A good story stays with you and will come to mind when you need the wisdom that you shared through it. It serves as a guide that's silent when you don't need it, but is there when you do. And stories are more than just the collection of words in them. Stories provide color, nuance, and context to what you're trying to convey. So, when do you use your storytelling skills the most? There are some situations in which storytelling skills can make or break your prospects for success. The first one that comes to mind is interviewing. Yes, you're a leader and you're doing well, but you're also ambitious and will, maybe sooner rather than later, be in a job search. The keys to interviewing well lie in knowing the stories you want to tell, being able to tell those stories concisely with the right nuance for the listener and at the appropriate times during the conversation, and using your stories to guide you in how you answer questions. I once had a cringe-worthy interview in which I answered the exact questions asked. I didn't keep in mind the stories I wanted to share and that I wanted to make sure that I told, nor did I let my stories guide me to steer the conversation towards them. Needless to say, I didn't make it past that round. Another situation in which stories are really important is change management. As a leader, you will undoubtedly have times when you will need to help your team adjust to new ways of working, whether that's from new systems that you have to use, or there's a new company or product direction, or a reorg, or any other change. Storytelling skills will help your team to absorb the new information more easily, to understand the context for the changes, and to see how their work contributes to the new organizational direction. Finally, another situation that comes to mind where storytelling skills are really important is aligning the people around you around common goals. Whether you lead people directly, like by org chart, or indirectly through being a subject matter expert, you'll have occasions when you need to rally others around a goal. Storytelling skills will help you impart the goal in a way that allows listeners to better understand not just the what, but the why. It makes them feel like they're an important part of the whole, and it eases the transition to starting the work toward the goal. So, how can you tell impactful stories? Keep in mind that when I talk about good stories, I don't mean tales told for fun. The stories you will tell as a leader have a purpose. You want them to have an impact in terms of leading people to do great work toward an organizational mission. What makes a story impactful? Well, if there's one idea that I want you to take away from this video, it's that the stories that you tell as a leader may be about you, but they are never for you. I'm going to repeat that. The stories may be about you, but they're not for you. They're for your listeners. You're telling stories for the information to be memorable and actionable for the people you're talking to. To help you become a better storyteller, you can reference some tips in my article on Medium about sharing your vision from my Lessons in Leadership from Arati series. Communication is complex, but these ideas will help you simplify it. First, speak the listener's language. This is about knowing your audience, and that's advice that I'm sure you've heard countless times before. But there's a next step to it, which is to use that knowledge to talk to people in ways that help them hear you. Use phrases, concepts, and thought processes that resonate with your listeners. For example, if you're talking to a group of engineers, they'll want to hear a logical path to the conclusions that you've drawn in a measured voice. For a sales team, by contrast, in order for them to hear your story, they will need to hear about actions that they can take and to hear excitement and energy in your voice. Next, begin from a point that's familiar to your audience. That's going to help people to kind of get grounded and to be comfortable settling in to hear more. You can still make the first sentence land forcefully and really make it punch, but if you use an image that they can hold onto, they'll want you to continue. Bring your listener on the journey with you. Since you already know where the story goes, you're going to be tempted to skip steps. And those are steps that your audience might need to go there as well. Walk with them to ensure that they arrive at the intended endpoint. So let's look at some common mistakes that I've heard people make when they tell stories and a few tips to help you avoid them. First, rambling. This is the number one problem I encounter when I'm helping clients to prepare for a speaking engagement or to a group or for interviewing. The issue can stem from a couple of things. First, it might be because they just haven't practiced. If you're asked, tell me about yourself, that is not an invitation to launch into your entire professional history. Think about the achievements, skills, and experience that you want to highlight and weave them into a 1 to 3 minute, concise, clear summary of your professional experience. A second problem that can lead to rambling is sharing too much detail. You really don't need to tell everything that happened or needs to happen to the last step. You also don't have to share that ensure that all details are filled in along a timeline. It's in your head. That's confusing for the listener, especially if you're going back and forth because you told a little bit of the story and then you realize, oh, I skipped a step, and so that you go backwards. Instead, focus on the main concepts and provide just enough color for the listener to get a mental image. Another problem is not saying enough. Yes, it is possible to be too brief. If you're giving a presentation in which you want to persuade, for example, a team to change their way of working, you're going to need to provide enough information for the listeners to understand your perspective and see how it makes sense. Share the logical steps you took to your conclusions. Don't just share the conclusions. Show them how this change can be beneficial to them and the general steps that they can take to implement the change. Another common mistake that I see in storytelling is telling a timeline. Your story isn't a historical recital. Timelines can be important, but they're not the main thing you're sharing. If your story is just stepping through time periods, your listeners just stop listening and they won't retain the real information that you want them to remember. Instead, use the timeline to illustrate the forward progress that you want to take place. Another common mistake is not focusing on relevant items. This tip can be related to the desire to share too much detail, but I've also heard people tell me about the details at the expense of the main points. And that's left me trying to wade through what they said to find all the important bits. Ensure that your listeners know what the main points are by stating them explicitly, and then use the details for nuance and color. Storytelling skills are incredibly important for leaders. They're how you share your vision, persuade others to follow the path that you're recommending, and ensure that they remember and are ready to action the ideas that you share. To learn more about how you can become a better storyteller, book an intro chat. I'm Suzanne El Nagar, helping you to become the impactful leader whom everyone wants to follow.